Hello and welcome back to the Signiforce channel. In today's tutorial, we are going to learn how to customize our Salesforce Lightning homepage so you can go from something like this to something like this. So let's get into the tutorial. So when you first log in to Salesforce, before you've configured your homepage, you will probably see a standard homepage that looks a little bit like this. In order to customize this page, click the Setup menu and select Edit Page. This will allow you to immediately start customizing the current homepage. Or you could also create a brand new homepage and then replace the current homepage with that homepage, which is what we are going to do. So I'm going to exit out of this view, go to my Setup menu, and then go to the Lightning App Builder. This is where you will be able to create a new Lightning homepage. And there's a couple of ways you can do this. You could either press clone, the clone link next to the homepage default page, which is the page that we were currently on, or you can create a brand new page using the new button. So we're going to click the button, and then we are going to be walked through a set of prompts on what kind of page we want to create. So you can walk through the prompts and build your homepage that way as well. So I'm going to X out of this, and I want to just clone the existing homepage so that I have something that looks similar to what I currently have, and then I could kind of move things around. So I'm going to select clone next to the homepage default, and I'm going to give my page a name. So I'm going to call it Sales App Homepage. And then you can change the developer name as well if you want to. That's totally up to you. And then you have your brand new page. So what you're going to notice is that now you're in the Lightning App Builder, and this is the actual page in these sections. And then the other thing you will notice is that these are a bunch of components that have been added to the section. So you could delete this component, you could drag in additional components, and it's a lot of plug and play. So the first thing I notice is this quarterly performance component that it doesn't do much for my organization. So I'm going to delete this component and then add a chart that actually is something that we care about at our organization. So I'm going to delete this, and then I'm going to add a report chart component. And I'm just going to drag it and drop it where I want to see the component. And so the first thing you will notice is that as soon as the component is dragged and selected, there's a bunch of properties that appear on the right. And this will happen to all the components that you're going to drop in. The first thing is a label, and the label is basically if you don't like the title of the report that you just selected, you can put in a title that could replace that. Or, and then the second one is the report that you want to appear. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that the only reports that will appear in this list are the reports that have a chart already. So you will not see all reports in your system, only the reports that have a chart attached to it. So the all-one donations and grants is a chart that we really care about to see on our homepage. So that's the first thing that I'm going to select. If you want to see how to create a chart like this, I have created another tutorial, and I will link it above in the card as well as in the description below, so you can learn how to do something like this. The other thing that you can do is add filters, but the filter is not really available in the homepage. It's only available in record pages. Add a show refresh button, and that's about it. And I'm going to go ahead and press save. And the save basically just allows you to continue to save your page so you don't lose any work. For now, if you get this this message to say not yet, we're not going to activate the page yet, and I'll walk through that a little bit later in the tutorial. So that's the first thing. The other thing you could do, let's say you have a dashboard that you want to see on the homepage, you could also drag an entire dashboard On the left, just select the dashboard component and then drag it into the section that you want to show it, and you could actually display an entire dashboard on your homepage. I'm not going to do that. I think this component is enough for my particular demo. So the next thing that you will notice is that there are other standard components that are pretty useful. So the one component that I really like is the recent items component, because it could show you the types of items that you've been looking at. So when you come back to the homepage after a session, you could see what you were looking at right before you left. So I like this. The only thing that I want to customize is I want to be able to see additional items. So right now, it's only showing me the accounts that were the last accounts I was looking at. So I'm going to change this to show me accounts. I also want to look at contacts, and I also want to look at opportunities that I was looking at before, like the most recent ones, and press OK. And then the other thing I'm going to change is that I want to look at the last 5 items that I was recently looking at. The other thing I want to show you is the label feature. So right now the label says recent items, and you can change that to recent accounts, contacts, and opportunities, just as an example. So you can see that you have a lot of flexibility on what to name them. So that looks good. And then the other thing that you can do is you'll see that there are things like today's events and today's tasks. But there are basically any kind of list that you have in the system. So any object with the list view, you can drag into the homepage. So for example, I don't necessarily care about the today's task. I want to see all the open tasks that are assigned to me. So I'm going to delete this component. I'm also going to delete the today's events component. So I'm going to pull in the list view component, which is right here. And I'm going to drag it here. And when I drag the list view component, it's going to ask me which object is this list view on. So I'm going to select task because I want to see the tasks that are open. So I'm going to select task, and then I get to select my filter, which is my actual list. So I'm going to say my open tasks. Another thing that you will notice for list view is that it looks different when it's in a smaller zone like this versus if you dragged it into a bigger zone. So if I go to the bigger zone, I can actually see a lot more of the list. And it actually looks like the list view in the tab itself. And then you can have additional items that you can do. You can enable inline editing. You could hide the action bars. So if you don't want them to see the actions that are on the list view, you could do that. You could also hide the search bar. Is another item that you can do. So all of that stuff is only available in sort of the larger view. If you were to drag it down to the smaller view, even though you have these options available, they're not going to do much for you. So I like it in the smaller view, so I'm going to keep it there. And then the other list view that I want to pull is my most recent or my opportunities that are new this week. And then press save again to save your work. Another cool feature in the app builder is that you can add a set of tabs. So I want to drag a set of tabs here. And the reason why I want to do tabs is because I have a couple of things that I want to add that I don't necessarily need to see in the page. It's okay if it's hidden behind a tab to kind of save some real estate. So the first tab is my chatter, and I'm just going to drag my chatter into it. And so that's the component chatter feed, as well as the chatter publisher. So I'm going to add that to this particular tab. And then I'm going to, in the second tab, I don't want the dashboard tab. I want to add my news component here. So I'm going to say news and then press done. And in the news component, you still have to drag the news component into it. So I'm going to drag the news component here because I don't necessarily need to see it. Everybody's not interested in it, but the people who are can select the tab. And the other thing I like to do with the news component is make it into a carousel because it, again, takes up less space. Now, if you don't see the news component and you want to add it, you have to go to your account setup, go to your account settings, and then you will need to enable news. So that might be why you don't see the news component. Now, one other thing that I wanted to show you guys is that you can also add rich text fields and add messages. So I want to add a little message to all my users that says, Happy New Year, because we're still in January. And I just want to wish them a Happy New Year. So I just drag the rich text component, and you can actually just type something in it, or you can copy and paste images. And so here there's no image button, but you can basically just copy an image. So I have an image ready that I'm going to copy, and then I'm just going to paste that in here. And just like that, I have a nice little greeting that I want to add. And the other thing I wanted to show you here is that you could add messages to your homepage and use component visibility to only show them to certain types of people or in certain situations. So for example, if I wanted this to only be available, in this scenario I wouldn't, but in another scenario, let's say I only wanted that particular message to show up for users that are part of the profile standard user, let's say, I would say user profile and then profile name. And I would filter that by standard user. And press done. And that would actually, if I enabled that, or I did enable that, that would make sure that when I view the page, only those users who are standard users would see this little component and everybody else wouldn't. So I'm going to delete that because I don't want that to happen in this particular scenario, but that's how you would do it. And press save. And the other thing I just wanted to mention that you can do is you can also embed a flow into your homepage. I'm going to do a whole series of videos on tutorials on flows, so I'm not going to show that here, but you could do that, as well as any of these other components that are available. You could add those, as well as custom components and Visualforce to the page. So now that I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and save. And then this is where we need to tell Salesforce where this page should appear. So I'm going to press the activation button. And the activation button will kind of walk you through what exactly do you want to do with this page. Do you want this page to be your org default, meaning that it's going to be the home page for the entire org no matter where you are in the org? Do you want this to be the app default, or you want to even assign it by apps and profiles? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to assign it as a app default to the sales app, and press next and press save. So this is going to ensure that this particular one shows up as the homepage for the sales app. Press save and then press the back button. So now when I go to my sales app and I refresh, it will show me the new homepage that I just built for this particular app. That is all for today's tutorial. I have a whole playlist of page layouts in Salesforce and how to do page layouts and add different components to them. So I will link that right here. And if you found this video helpful, please give me a like and share it with a colleague or a friend. We upload Salesforce tips and tutorial videos in Lightning. So if that's something that you're interested in, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you in my next video.